So there's another deck from our most recent EU tournament that I really wanted to highlight. This one comes from Satur, and it's kind of a mid-range combo Shaman. So plays with the mid-range style, but has the ability to be this combo deck. So I want to talk about the combo side of things first. If you really want to build up all these cards into your hand, you're able to get Leroy with a Flame Tongue Totem, 2 Rockbiter weapons, and Wind Fury, which is 28 damage straight from hand. But what I love about this deck so much, among other things, because there's a lot to highlight here, is you really don't need to do that. So in some games, you're going to want to go ahead and save up all these pieces. But most of the cards that are in that combo are just cards that you're running in the list anyway, right? Rockbiter is very good. You've got 2 Flame Tongues, which are fine, and Rockbiter can even be used in combination with Alakir, just as is, or you can use Rockbiter with another minion that's going to get Wind Fury. I've played something similar where you slap Wind Fury down on a fire elemental. It pushes a lot of damage, and of course, if you can Rockbiter or Flame Tongue that, it's going to be able to do a lot. So there's a lot of flexibility in how much burst do you need, when do you need it. Should you still just be using Flame Tongue and Rockbiter as a board clear tool? It's really, really cool for that kind of stuff. It kind of reminds me of something like Handlock, where, you know, if you're running Leroy in Handlock with, say, Faceless and Power Overwhelming, well, you can still use Power Overwhelming in other ways, like with Shadow Flame. Sometimes with Faceless, maybe you're going to want to copy a Taunt or something like that. You know, it's much different than, say, a Worgen OTK deck, where you're really building up these very specific pieces, Charge and Rampage, with the Worgen to be able to send a ton of damage all at once. And generally speaking, in those cases, you don't want to use things like Charge or Rampage anytime prior to that combo to finish your opponent. Of course, there's exceptions to that, but very few. So the pieces in this deck that aren't part of that combo really just fit into that standard kind of mid-range Shaman. Again, Flame Tongues at 2, very strong. You've got removal in Earth Shock and Lightning Bolt, Feral Spirit, Hex, Manatide, Unbound, which is maybe a little less common. I think you tend to see Harvest Golem, but an absolutely fine inclusion. I like the single Yeti, the Defender of Argus, and then it gets a little interesting here once you start looking at Gadgetzan. Now, I think Gadgetzan is in here kind of as a third Azure Drake. This is just my speculation, but you know, Drake, it's a fine body at the 5-mana spot. There's not a lot of competition, but you get that card draw. With Gadgetzan, it's got the ability to draw more than one card, but I think you're probably okay if you just get that single draw. And it's one of those cards that has like this soft taunt, I would call it, where your opponent feels the need to remove it as quick as possible. So just a single one in there. You're not trying to do crazy Miracle Rogue things, but I like it. It fits into the curve nicely. And then some pretty typical stuff on the high end. So yeah, between the mid-range and the combo aspects of the deck, it allows you to play each matchup a bit differently. I think if you're playing something like Druid, which struggles against anyone who's able to flood a board pretty wide, mid-range Shaman does very good against that. You probably don't care about saving Rockbiter for something like Leroy Wind Fury all that often. Of course, it's going to depend on your draw, but you'd be very happy slapping this onto a totem, maybe in combination with Flame Tongue or something like that. Maybe one of your Feral Spirits, take out your opponent's Yeti, and just kind of build up that board. You'll be fine. Maybe you get a bit of burst, like I said, a Wind Fury on a big minion, or you just get Alakir with a single Rockbiter, something like that. That's enough to kind of finish things off. But then there's other matchups where that burst is very, very important. So against Handlock, where there's this threshold for Molten Giants, you want to be careful not to damage them too much. You want to be able to send a ton of damage at them as fast as possible. So that's where you can hold back more cards in your hand to build up more pieces of that combo and try to push 20 or more damage if needed, somewhere around there, maybe 18 to 20, something like that. Rogue is another one. You know, Lava Burst, another bit of burn that you've got. But Rogue, if you just let them keep drawing, the longer that game goes out, the higher the chances are that they get their ridiculous Leroy double Shadow Step combo. Maybe you don't want to wait until you have an entire combo in your hand because you just can't afford to wait that long against a Miracle Rogue. But something like Leroy with a single Wind Fury, maybe you've got a Flame Tongue Totem down, or yeah, maybe you're going to slap that down with double Rock Biter on just a Totem or something. Just that little bit of burst so you're able to kill them before they get their combo. I love the amount of flexibility that this deck offers. It screams out to me as one of these decks that also could use a lot of tweaks. Not necessarily that it needs it, but more like if you're facing a certain type of deck in the meta, maybe you're going to kind of alter things to cater towards that one matchup versus others. And I don't think the overall archetype here is really hurt, because it is really just only the inclusion of Wind Fury and Leroy to enable this combo ability, and everything else just kind of fits into that mid-range archetype. So really wanted to highlight it. I just thought it was something cool, something that people could experiment with, maybe build upon, have their own little variations of. Shaman itself, already something you don't see too often in Classic. I think it's an underrated class, to be honest. And then seeing this real cool list here from Satur, I just wanted to, yeah, kind of highlight it. So I'll link it in the comments below. Give it a whirl. I highly recommend it. And yeah, best of luck out there.